welcome to episode 6 of the Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast with myself, Andrew Pollard, in association with Hill Street Social. This week is part 2 of a fascinating, all-covering chat with Gareth Owen. Talk about his time at the town, obviously, 12 years as a pro, time as a YTS, and also before that in the youth system. So much to talk about with Gaz in that regard, but also his career after that, moving to Doncaster Rovers, moving into the League of Wales, winning the League of Wales, moving into management, moving into coaching, and being, a technical advisor of sorts for the Welsh FA as he is now. So there's so much more to come from Gaz in this chat, but also he'll be picking his all-time Wrexham 11. And as mentioned, 12 years as a pro there, there's a lot of players to pick from of his all-time Wrexham 11, the players he's played with. So loads to come here. It's a great listen. It was such a pleasure to do, and a massive thanks to Gaz for giving us so much time. But if you're listening to this, be sure to subscribe on all your podcast platforms. It is just by searching for Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast. Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast. Easy for me to say. Who picked a stupid name like that? Also, find us on YouTube at Wrexham Legends. Plenty more to come from us in the coming weeks. But yeah, here's Gaz. We will start to get towards the end of your Wrexham times. I'm going to try and wind this up. So I've kept you for ages, and there's still so much to get through. I'm looking at all the notes I've got here and the questions I've got here, and there's some fan questions to come up. And you'll be picking your all-time Wrexham 11, which I'm dying to see that.
On.
Yeah, the pressure's massively on with that, and no cop outs like Mark Cartwright who picked the squad. That was a one-off. But you get to play your testimonial against Man United. They come to the racecourse. It'd be a packed house of what I think like 14,000, 13,500, whatever it be. How was it to? Because we don't really see testimonials in football these days anymore. Well, largely, I guess, because some players don't stick around that long. But how was it to have that recognition from a full racecourse coming to see you for your game, your moment there? And also, what was it like to have Man United come, like the team you grew up supporting?
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I couldn't think of another word for it. And when all the things you mentioned tonight, how lucky were we to, as people and as footballers, to go through the times that we've experienced. What is it's when Wrexham, we're not a Premier League club. We were a lower league club at the time who had some relative good success, but it was again mind blowing. I used the word. There isn't another word for it to sum it up. I still look back at it now, and I still go back, and even now I would go around and try and find out who them 14,000 people were, and just say thank you for coming. I think that's the least you can do. And I tried to do that on the night. I remember signing umpteen autographs, sort of walking around the outside of the pitch after the game, and it was mind blowing. I think Darren, I can't thank Darren enough, and I still thank him to this day for sort of organising it with us. I remember him bounding up the path at Collier's, and this was a testimonial year, so it ran from August to August. Yeah, and we got to March, something like that, and we had got a game. We'd had sort of teams had agreed and then pulled out. And we signed Darren in the January, if I'm right, in the window maybe, or he came at that time and signed. But this was probably 2 months after he'd signed, and I remember him bounding up the path in that deep Scottish accent. It was when the old man's going to send a team over, and I went, "What do you mean? Well, I'm lost. What do you mean? He's going to send a team for your testimonial." I sorted it with him. Spoken to Mike Phelan. They're going to send a team over. Oh my God, I think I went straight to the toilet and just I couldn't get my head around it. I stood in toilets for a while thinking, wow, what a man, first of all, for doing that, going away and speaking to his old man to just try and get somebody over, whoever it was from Man United. And then the sort of, they released it in the press, and the euphoria started to build up from the end of the season, I suppose. For me, I couldn't take my mind off that August the 1st sort of date that United were going to come over, and obviously thanks to Flinney and the club for agreeing it as well. And before you know it, the date's there. I think I remember the night arriving, and it was packed more than usual. Obviously, from a playing perspective, we used to have sort of a spec you'd have, or a part of the car park you parked in, that was all full. So we were pushed elsewhere. Sky Sports were there on the night, I think, because they were doing something with, I think they were doing something at the ground or doing something with United. So they came over as well, and it was just crazy, absolutely crazy. Got mobbed coming from the car going in. The attention you sort of get on a night like that was pretty overwhelming. And then you're in the changing rooms, all the kit's out, and you can see your name on the shirt, and then obviously the team talk starts, and it's a bit of a blur. I'll be honest. I try to tell myself to enjoy every second of it, which I did, but it becomes a bit of a blur on the night. And then after, you're upstairs, leading into the game. Giggs announced that he was going to be captain for the night, and that wasn't released until the Friday leader. So I think up until then there was about 7,500, 8,000 tickets sold. As soon as he announced he was going to be captain on the night over that weekend, it just doubled the attendance. But yeah, after the game, he was in the bar, and he came up and just said, congratulations on tonight. And you're sort of pinching yourself, and you're thinking, this is Ryan Giggs stood in front of you. Oh my God, you can't sort of believe that this man is stood here. But he said, we wished us best wishes for the future, and all that. And I thanked him for coming, and a few speeches after the game, as you imagine, a great talker still aren't, but wasn't a great talker then. And I think it's just the emotion of everything, Andy, on the night that I think I said at the time, I wasn't really an emotional person until tonight, and you see something like that happening, you can't get your head around it. It's mind blowing. I'll go back to the word.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to speak to Sir Alex as well?
Do you know what? I pulled him. I didn't pull him.
That's a different story for a different time.
Yeah. We played Bury away a couple of weeks after, and he was watching, and I just went up, introduced myself, and I just said, look, I can't thank you enough for sending a team down, agreeing for United to come down and play a couple of weeks back for the Testimonial. Oh, you're right, son. Was his words, just that's all he needed to say. Don't worry about it, son. So he had this aura around him. I was really worried about going up and speaking to him, but I said, you know what, I won't forgive myself if I don't go up and just say thank you. Yeah. So I did it, and it was fine in the end. Like I got on the bus and I said to Darren, I just spoke to your man. I just said thanks for sending the team down, and really appreciate it. And he said, oh, that's great, thanks. So, he'd appreciate that. I saw today it was advertised, wasn't it? His documentary's coming out next month.
Yeah.
The eye open for you. Is it June the 16th or something? Might actually be May. But yeah, what? I saw the trailer, and I had goosebumps from the trailer watching it. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Well, he's I like by the sounds of it, his old man's a class act, but Darren as well is very much a class act. I remember when the shit started to hit the fan with the takeover with Alex Hamilton, Mark Gutman came in, and I remember vividly. I think it was Alex Hamilton came out and just basically rinsed Darren in the press for saying like, well, he's on X amount of wages a week, and the very next day it seemed like it came out where Darren went, okay, I'll take a pay cut, no worries. And it was just like, fine, yeah, I'll do what I can to help the club. And then there's still that thing amongst Wrexham fans of like, what if, because Brian Carey seems like a lovely fella, a legendary player for us, kept us up that season with the Boston game. But there's always that what if, that if Darren would have took over then instead of Brian. And I mean, it wasn't just that Darren Ferguson didn't take over as manager, it was he left as a player at that point in time. Because from reading the tea leaves, it seems like he wanted a job. He wanted certain control over certain elements, and they weren't willing to give him that in the end. And Brian was okay with that. And you just think, what would have happened if we'd have had Darren Ferguson in charge to this? Like, where would we be now? But again, it's a what if, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be unfair for me to comment on it. Really, I don't like the term, but it was what it was. Brian took over, and it didn't work out ultimately. And I think we lose at the moment. You've seen a lot of we've lost what Dean did for the club as a player.
Yes, massively.
The amount of abuse he's got online, he's been quite vocal with it, hasn't he? And quite public with it. We lose what people do for the clubs as players, and I don't mean that in that everyone should be held up on some kind of pedestal, but I suppose what I mean is that Brian spilt blood. I was there with him. Brian, broken bones for it, and you do it all as part of your job. But let's, try and remember Brian Carey, I suppose, for the player he was. It's difficult, isn't it, when an ex-player takes over as a manager and things don't work out. With Andy, we saw Andy Morel, we saw some relevant success there. And, that 98-point season, I think we're still
ridiculous.
We won't get a head around it, will we?
Ridiculous for that. But I guess Brian Hughes, another one where that happened, where there's some people that forget Brian Hughes, the player. It's like, to me, I mean, if you're going to be picking your Wrexham 11 at the end of this, if I'm picking my Wrexham 11 for my time watching it, both Brian Carey and Brian Hughes are both in that. Both great players for us. Brian Hughes, probably arguably, technically probably could be the best player I've seen play for Wrexham. But a lot of players just judge it on what they saw as a lot of fans judge it on what they saw as a manager, and not just that first season, but then obviously what would lead to leaving the club. And it's a shame that people lose that perspective. And the same with Dean Keats, because Dean Keats was a hell of a player for us as captain in that midfield. Just tenacity, classy, just the again, you talk about awe of someone like Alex Ferguson. Dean Keats had that awe about him on the pitch, where he seems to bring players up around him as well, which is like an immeasurable ability to have.
If you've seen both, there's no excuse. If you've seen Brian as a player and Brian as a manager, there's no excuse. If you've seen just Brian as a manager, there's still no excuse. But at least you've got something to go at them with. Whilst crossing the line, there's still no excuse for. But you're disappointed in things. Everyone's a football manager. Everyone's a coach. Everyone would do it the way that they would do it. Which there's no other job in the world, is there, where people look over your shoulder and, on a track in Airbus, no one's over your shoulder going, mate, that hole's too big. There's 2 millimeters too big. There's no one criticising you, is there? So, football, I think, is one of the few, anything like that when you're in the public eye, I think, and opinions and, everyone's got them, haven't they? Everyone's got their right to them, by the way, as well. And I just think things are done in the wrong way a lot of the time, aren't they? And people forget. People have got short memories. And forget what's gone on in the past. Yeah,
very much so. Well, before we one last question about Wrexham before we move on to, because there was a career after Wrexham. Even if your wife thought you retired after you left Wrexham, there was a career. One game that has to be brought up is the Burnley away. Gareth Owen, goalkeeper extraordinaire. It was nuts to think about. And obviously I think it was Mark Wilson's debut, that one. Because he'd come on and he'd get the winner, and we obviously go on to we win with 10 men and you in goal. And it's one of those kind of, you can never, I don't know, if you're trying to come up with like some imaginative football scenario, it's one of those you probably never even come up with, where we've got the lad from Man United comes on loan, comes off the bench, gets the winner. But before that, the keeper goes off. You end up. I didn't want to say anything, but it's not like we've got a 6'5" centre midfielder going in nets. It's your good self, and you had a stormer. Why were you in goal, and what were your memories of that game?
Oh, you're going to laugh, mate. So when I started playing football, I probably fancied myself as a bit of keeper at 8, maybe 9 years of age.
Yeah.
On the drive at my mum and dad's house, in goal, on the pitch, over the school, the golf in CP at the back of us, anything with my older brothers, in goal. Guys, you're 5'8", mate. I don't care. I'm still going to go in goal. And obviously, I then started playing as a centre half. So my first sort of position was as a central defender for Deeside Primary Schools, which is probably the first representative team I played for, and in school as well as a centre back. And then they obviously saw something in me to release me into midfield, and I never looked back. I think once I got in and started playing in midfield, I never looked back. But going in goal was always something that I thought I do, irrespective of height. I think you just want to prove people wrong.
Yeah,
you want to prove people you can do something. Or Andy Morell said the same thing about Jay Harris. He was his number, his goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think he said that was it. The weekend he said that when he was on commentary. Yeah,
So that story came out over the weekend that Jay Harris was Andy Morell's sort of goalkeeper. So Jay Harris is probably maybe an inch taller than me at 5'9" or something like that. But must be something about midfielders that fancy themselves as keepers. But that night, obviously shepherded and defended by 4 Goliaths in front of us. I think it was Mark McGregor, Brian, Tony and H, or Mel Pedgican and H. Sorry, memories again, not what it used to be. But I remember Burnley sort of the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes of Mark going off. They had a free kick on their left, right? So our right hand side, they put it right under the bar. I've caught it, took a step back, but put the ball over the line, as if you would as if you were a keeper, because I was falling backwards, but took a step back Ball over the line and then step forward. So the good ball hadn't crossed the line. Burnley fans are going mad. It's gone in. He's dropped it or whatever. I haven't dropped it. Nowhere near did it cross the line. So a lot of the time, because you feel comfortable with the ball at your feet, I think I'm just dropping it out of my hands, and pinging balls off the floor and not using my hands so much. But I remember Bright set. So we went 1-0 up, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think then it was 1 each. Then it went in goal. Mark came on. So second half I've got the Burnley fans behind me, and I'll never forget some bloke every 30 seconds or so, I'm going to get you, fatty. That's all he kept saying. And I was carrying it a little bit nowadays, but back then, I was probably a rugby player's bill playing football. I'm going to get you, fatty, every minute or so. And it rang in my ears. And I'm thinking, right, anything that comes in, it ain't going in this net, right? So they're breaking down the right-hand side. I can see all our defenders coming back. I'm trying to get a decent position. The ball skidded across, and not joking, he's pinged it across the floor. I dived forward almost flat out onto it, not like a keeper would, just dived out flat onto it, closed my eyes, and could feel the ball in my hands, and got up and sort of tried to play from there, and that gave me confidence second half to come for a few things. Same thing happened 5 minutes later, they've crossed it in, I haven't come, Brian's fucking guys, you got to come for them. And I'm like, come on, give me a chance. I'm trying to do the best I can here. But yeah, he came me a few times, Big Bri, which kept me on my toes. But yeah, I think I spent most of the second half then not really under massive pressure. And, lo and behold, we had the break down the right. Mark Wilson finishes it off. But I just remember mopping up a lot, being sort of sweeper keeper as such, because we'd held them in their half that well and defended that well. A lot of the second half, I think, apart from the 2 takes and a couple of claims and maybe reading a through ball and nipping it off a centre forward's feet with my feet, not my hands, I think there wasn't a massive amount to do. But I'll never forget walking off there in front of the Wrexham fans. Obviously, they were at the far end, and we won 2-1, obviously. And again, great memories for anyone that was there on the night, hopefully.
Yeah, it's like a night that's gone down in Wrexham folklore. When you did leave in 2001, it beat to Doncaster. Why Doncaster? Because it wasn't. It's not like it's a club that's on your door. That's a whole move up to that neck of the woods, the other side of the country. Well, the other side of the UK.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but they sold me a really good vision of what they wanted for the club at the time. Were really clear in the way that I'd fit into things. Yeah, we're very lucky to have gone there and met some fantastic people, some fantastic players as well. Played a lot in the first year. They made me captain after about a month, 2 months maybe, which was brilliant. What an honour to be captain of Doncaster Rovers. We were in the National League at the time, Vanarama, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We were playing non-league football, but everyone knew that Donny were probably the biggest team. It's very similar to Wrexham in that respect, where every home game, even then, was 4,000. 3,500, 4,000 every week. It was at the old ground then. You'll tell me what it's called. I forget.
Way over my head, that one. I always have to take a second to think. Is it Darlington or Doncaster? I used to get the 2 mixed up. It's like, well, no, Gareth Owen went to one, Wally went to the other. That's how I remember it.
It'll come to me. But yeah, the actual ground was really old. The pitch was fantastic. It was always a big pitch. We used to go there with the Midlands Senior League, if I remember rightly, and a couple of cup games over that way. The pitch was always brilliant. So I'd been there a few times, understood it. I remember driving over. It took forever to get there. It's some traffic on the way. It was sort of like 3.5 hours. I remember coming home and thinking, oh, Jesus, you know what? Whether I can sign there or not, I don't know. And they made me a great offer. I'll be honest. And I ended up signing, and again, look back at it as, again, fortunate to be at such a big club, I suppose, gunning for promotion. And I knew we had the chance of promotion. There's some good established pros there. We signed, in that time I arrived as well. There've been some other signings from the league. Paul Barnes being one. Paul was sort of successful at Bury, and if I remember rightly, and other Midlands clubs there. He scored goals all throughout his career. He signed. And then the second year we went up. I didn't play a lot second year, to be fair. I think I hadn't fallen out. Steve Wilder, not Steve Wilder. Oh my God, my memory's going. But the manager that signed me ended up leaving the club, I think, around the Christmas time. Dave Penny took over. And I just sort of wasn't his type of player, just didn't fit into the team. They brought a couple of midfielders in who, to be fair, they stayed there for years after I'd gone and did really well for the club. Paul Green was coming through at the time, who went on to be a Irish international, played for Leeds, amongst others. So really, very similar to Wrexham in the way they nurtured their young players. If you watch some of the footage from the time, Rob Gill was there, Tristan Whitram, a boy called Roberts that ended up playing for the team.
Oh, Gareth Roberts.
Not Gareth Roberts, no. He was a fast winger.
Oh, I was thinking of a left back.
It'll come to me. No,
he was in Tranmere, actually, not even Chester.
Yeah, so some really Jamie Price again, some really good players. Again, the club, coach there called Mickey Mayfield, who nurtured them really well. And it was very similar to Wrexham in that respect. So, yeah, I enjoyed the digs were brilliant there. The people at the digs looked after us, learnt the guitar over there while I was there, as we were talking about earlier. Came back after 2 years and sort of could strum a little bit. And I do look back on it fondly. I'd be lying if I didn't. That second year, as I said, didn't play a lot. I played maybe 15, 20 games, but brilliant to watch the club go up, albeit from the stands. I think it was at the Britannia. They played the playoff final that year, Dagenham and Redbridge. I think we scored in very late in the second half of extra time. So Franny Turney, I think, I don't know whether you know named Franny Turney.
Yeah, he was at Crewe, was he? Then went to Liverpool. Was it Liverpool and Crewe?
Right. Yeah, he was sort of winding down his career then, but what a player he was. Sort of lower league, sort of Matt Letitia type player, quite, he won't mind me saying this, he wasn't the most mobile, but wasn't lazy, but couldn't get around, had lost a little bit of pace, but his feet were incredible, but he scored that goal and that took Donny back up into the Football League and then I left and sort of came back and played in the Welsh Prem then and started working for a living, I suppose. So the job sort of started, the 9 to 5 job started and playing part-time football in the Welsh Prem.
I think, because that's what I was going to get to then. It was, let me get this right first. Nomads first, then it was Airbus, then it was Real. How did you find that? Because just like, because you've been used to playing league football, then you played conference national leagues at be now, and then to go to the Welsh Premier League, or how was that? I don't know if it's dropping standards a right term, but like that, I guess just to play at that level, how did you adapt to that?
Yeah, the Welsh Prem at the time, Connacht or whatever it was Welsh Prem at the time, if I remember rightly. Yeah, so to that mid-2000s, so it was just after they'd lost the Connacht League of Wales, that title. It meant a lot to me to play for my own town club because my old man had played for Connacht and Flint in the local area, so it meant a lot to me to play for what was my actual, not my birth town, but where I was from. So I was more than happy to come back and do that, and then, but obviously, I had to start working during the day at some point. So it was the end of the professional football career, but I was sort of starting to get into coaching then as well, and that had become a passion from late 90s, early 2000s. So coming back in 2003, 4, something like that, it was brilliant to sign for the Nomads. It was, I felt we had, again, a strongish side who'd finished sort of top 4, I think, the year before. So I saw it as an opportunity to maybe win the league and get back into maybe playing European football, which ultimately then, how long later? 4 or 5 years later, when the last year of my career is really in the semi-pro, I ended up playing Champions League football for Real, which again blew my mind. Qualifiers, albeit, but I saw the key sort of being able to do that year. It didn't pan out that way, unfortunately. I think we finished 4th again, something like that, in the second year, and then I won't go into it. There was a few issues, should we say, that there was a bit of a falling out, and I ended up taking the Airbus role then, as player manager. And again, great years. So, I enjoyed that sort of challenge of, it doesn't happen a lot nowadays, does it, where you sort of player managing a club. But But I had a brilliant number 2 there, Alan Bickerstaff. You know, still work with Alan nowadays, and we always, you know, look back fondly at that period. And I then left as a player manager to play for Alan at Rill with Oshan was sort of involved at the club at the time, Oshan Roberts as well, which was too good of an opportunity to turn down to go and play there just as a player. So the you know, the management shackles and the coaching shackles were off, and we won it that year. We won the title. We had some fantastic players again around us. Again, very lucky to have had George Iran, who'd been an ex-Wrexham youth player and played in the sort of Welsh Prem for years, and really established player. Greg Strong came in, signed at centre back had played for Bolton in his career, and we had established sort of left back Greg Stones, Chris Williams, I think. Mark Conley right back, Lee Kendall signed in goal, who was the best keeper in the league by a mile at the time. Jimmy Kelly was at Rill. Remember Jimmy Kelly? Obviously, so he was at Rill at the time. Gareth Wilson, and then we signed Jamie Reid, Matty Williams. What was the boy's name? Ex-Wrexham winger Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson, Trinidadian.
Came and signed in the window. Sorry, January. So Josh signed in that sort of as a right winger there. Carl Owen from Portmadoc. So we had a really strong squad going into the year. Llanelli had spent money the previous year and with a yardstick, but we blitzed everyone that year. It was a really good year. Obviously culminating with Neil Roberts signing and scoring 19 goals for Rill that year. But it was a pleasure to play in again, and again fondly remembered. And to play Champions League football the following year, we got absolutely battered. Going to Partizan Belgrade, I was 39, but to say you played in the Champions League, albeit a qualifying game, it was, walking out there was probably 13,000 there on the night, and 8 or 9 of them were in this end, right to the left. Champions League football, the music going, the night, the big ball, the cover they have, the big the Champions League ball, the kids on the pitch. Just what an occasion. As we walked out at Partizan, it's like I got a run track around it. So their fans, it was absolutely packed in this left end. They've all thrown this what looked like ticker tape. So there's pictures on my Facebook and others of this tape coming down like it was Buenos Aires in 1978. It was just shared. There was so much of this ticker tape coming down for probably 15, 20 seconds. You're looking to your left and you're thinking, wow. To the right-hand side, there wasn't many in the ground. We lost 4-0 in the first leg. And they were as good as anything I'd ever played against. They were a fantastic side. They beat us 8-0 at their place. After the game, so we were sort of walking back towards the change room, but we've got to pass all their fans who are in this home end, and all this ticker tape had piled up by now. So I just said to Lee Kendall as a keeper, for this, I'm going to go dive in it in front of them all. So there's a picture of me, I've got it on Facebook, full flight, about 3 or 4 foot in the air. I'm due to land in this, what looks like a pile of snow. But the picture is, you've got stewards in the background that are laughing and there's fans sort of laughing and that. But I hit the ground, I caught my chin on the floor. It was just like hitting a track, it was this ticker tape just provided no protection whatsoever. But crazy memories even though we got battered on the night, going out there, we had a strong side as well. As I say, George, Neil Roberts, Lee Kendall, these people weren't bad players. We were all decent, either ex-current or semi-pros, and lots of experience. But this Partizan team were just something else. As good as I'd faced in 20 years of playing as a pro.
Yeah. Well, it's not I suppose, if you look at all the potential draws you could have got, it's not the easiest of draws there. It's you're gonna go away to Belgrade, and there you go. See how you get on with that.
Do you know what? It was probably nice because who'd have, no disrespect, who'd have remembered going to maybe Lithuania or a Faroe Islands or something like that. It was nice to go out, albeit hammered, with a bang. and a bruised chin by the sound of it as well. A few bruised cheeks.
So just before we get to the fans' questions, then, what is it you do at the moment, then, guys? For anyone that's not aware, the coaching work you do, and like you said, you were involved with Flintshire, You tell them anyway, far better than I can do.
Yeah, so when I came out of football, I started to work and I took like a course as an MVQ assessor. So it was what was known as the A1 award at the time. So I got into sort of sport and rec and MVQ assessor, and then the job came up as football development officer for Flintshire. So it was, so Damien Roden, it was originally in the post. You might know the name Damien Roden, who's gone on to work all over the world now as a strength and conditioning coach, and with teams in the States and what have you, but was an ex-Wrexham YTS who was a good mate of mine. So he was in the post, and he left. Gareth Prosser then came in, and Gareth left. So what Flintshire were finding was a lot of these, should we say, younger members of staff were finding a job within a full-time club very quickly. So they wanted somebody a bit older. So I applied for the job. I very nearly wasn't going to go for it, but I applied for it, and thanks to Cledwyn Ashford, you probably know Cledwyn, knocks around with, had been around for years, really respected member of Bryncork High School before anything, was the headmaster there for years, involved in Welsh football now and Welsh schools, and a very respected member of Dan Nolan's backroom staff, should we say. So Cled's rang me and said, look, you've got to go for it, make sure you go for it. So I went for it, and lo and behold, I got it. I think my life changed there, then getting into the trust and getting into the FAW. So you sort of get a county then, don't you? So you're a football development officer in a county. Your job's to sort of increase growth, increase girls, boys playing the game, educate the coaches within the county, put on the courses, your safeguarding, first aid, disability. And that was for 5 years. Then I sort of worked as the FDO for Flintshire, and then went to work for the trust full time in 2013. But then the job role changes, and I started work initially as a club development officer in North West Wales. So living in like I'd have been in sort of the northeast at the time, but my clubs were all in the northwest, so North Wales Coast Area Association. So there's quite a bit of travelling in there. Then it developed more. I was still into my coach education, loved all the way from my first day as FDO, loved every second of coach education. So then a job came up within the trust. We restructured at the time, I think, and I was always sort of working on like the level 1 Football Leaders Award, C certificates, C licenses. That grew then into the B license with my time as an FDO, but the B license manager's job came up, and I went for it. I got it, and I've been in the role sort of since. So nationally we sort of run, historically we've run like 5, 6 B licenses domestically a year, have residential courses as well. We've run 8 this year. It's been online. It's been a completely different experience for everyone this year, and for the staff and the coaches, but we've got through it. So yeah, that's the sort of role, is educating other coaches through a contact, for example, at Colliers Park, where they'd come in, presentations are on, we might be taking them through approaches to modern coaching, or some other modules we cover on course. We put practical sessions on for the coaches to observe and give them some tasks around it. But it's ultimately about the coaches themselves on the courses. So we sort of simulate them coaching on course. They might coach each other as a group. So if you've got a group of 24, 2 might coach, and maybe 8 to 12 might take part in the sessions, or we might get players in from the local clubs. We then have some reality-based learning, which I suppose the term UEFA would use, and allow these coaches to coach the players that come in whilst we assess their and measure how they coach their performance against some criteria. Yeah, that's pretty much the B license job, and yeah, again, very lucky to be still involved in football.
That sounds like a very intense job that you're doing there.
Oh, it's brilliant. Pinch myself every morning. Yeah, I'm very lucky. Again, I work with some very forward-thinking people that challenge me. My job is also to challenge what we do and look at what we do, and don't settle for anything. Try and be a world-class coaching nation, and we will always aspire to be that. And it sort of goes hand in hand with player development as well, where recently there was sort of like I suppose 3 years back now, 2004 years back now, 2017, we launched what we call the national curriculum, which is our identity, Wales's identity of right from the top first men's team and ladies team, right the way down through all the age groups, coach education. This is our identity. This is our hymn sheet, and best thing we've done as a nation, because we all sing from that hymn sheet now. It's in there about our culture, the important things about values as an organisation, and it's great to sort of have something to live. You know, we live those values every day in what we do, and we've been very lucky. We've had some brilliant names down the years start their coaching career at sort of B licence, so their first experience with maybe a B residential course, and then they go on to do an A licence, and some will do a pro licence with us as well. So level 3 to level 4 to level 5. But yeah, that profile over the last 10 years, as you might be aware, is sort of, you know, skyrocketed a little bit, and you possibly, you know, might be aware of some of the names that we've had coming through. It's been again, you know, you sort of pinch yourself that these people are coming on our courses and we're working with them to make them better coaches and prepare them for their own coaching careers. So yeah, again, very, very lucky and very humbled to be in the role I'm in.
Brilliant. Now, just to get to, there's a few fan questions, and we'll get to your 11, and then that's that, because you've given us loads of times there. Sorry, Gaz. So this is coming from Red Passion. I never know if this is W Head or Weed, I'm supposed to pronounce it, but that's the username anyway. Is what's your biggest regret in football? And also they've added on the season you scored away to beat Bournemouth. What happened and how did the season go off the rails? I think that would have been 97-98, if I remember rightly.
Oh, now the testing my memory. So the first part of the question, what was the question? The first part?
Your biggest regret in football.
Biggest regret?
A nice positive one to start with.
Yeah, I don't think you can have any. You know, you let other people, I think, judge what you are as a player. Try not to say too much myself and let others be the judge of that. But ultimately, then that comes with, oh, you should have moved on, or you could have done this, you could have done the other. It didn't happen for whatever reason. You know, you hear things after you leave the club that Oldham wanted me and were prepared to bid X amount. Flinney wanted more. Leeds wanted me on 2 week trial of some kind. That never materialised. So, yeah, fulfilling your potential. Did I do it? Maybe not as a player, but as I said earlier on, I didn't want to play any higher other than with Wrexham. To my, you know, detriment, whatever you want to call it. So be it. Wear my heart on my sleeve. I didn't want to do it with anybody else, but you know, some people might call me stupid. Some people might say, well, you know, that's not very ambitious or whatever. But no, I just wanted to give me all for Wrexham Football Club, I suppose. And you know, you suffer the consequences. If I'd have moved, you know, we might have had a very different conversation tonight. But it never happened for whatever reason. Excuse me. So yeah, I don't look back and think I loved every second of it, and I'd be lying if I said any different.
Brilliant. Well, what you said there, that ties in with another question, which basically says the exact words that you just said. From Travis Bickle on Red Passion is, you often wore your heart on your sleeve with your all-action performances for the club. Would you consider a Wrexham tattoo to exemplify what the team and club meant to you?
I mean, this week I was in a conversation, right, on Facebook private messaging with I saw a Wrexham tattoo on a fan, and I thought, you know, wow, what a way to do it. I've got a couple. I won't lie, like they're on the insides of my arms, yeah, they're just lyrics. I'm obviously, you know, very musical. They're lyrics to a song which mean a lot to me. Also, like the staves and the music, you know, like they're not sort of hidden, and I wouldn't hide them, but the whole thing, I've got a couple below that, and the whole thing means something a lot to me, which, yeah, I definitely would consider it. As I said, I've had the conversation this week, so it's on my mind, and watch this space, I suppose, will be what we'll say to that, yeah.
And just to go back to the other question before about you scored away to beat Bournemouth, which I think was 97-98, but what happened with that season? Because that'd be the season we missed out on the playoffs on goal difference. What do you think went wrong that season? Why we didn't get playoffs?
I remember the game. I remember the goal. Believe it or not, I think I nicked it off one of their players in the edge of the box and went through and slid it in from a really acute angle, to the point where I remember walking off and Kev saying, "How have you scored from there?" But so I remember the goal. quite very little memory of the games after that. And
I think that was like the second or third to last game of the season. It was right towards, if it's the game I'm thinking of, it was right towards the tail end of the season.
when we dropped out of the playoffs, then, if I'm right.
Yeah, we ended up, that was where we missed out on goal difference that season.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, it's happened recently, hasn't it? You know, it's happened to Wrexham quite often, and not something that you look back and you expect of, you know, the mindset that we had as a team and players then. You can't explain some of these things sometimes. These things just happen, and I wouldn't say it got the better of us. You don't go into games thinking, we were always, you know, confident, and you know, we were always, whatever side that went out there for Wrexham during the 90s, I always got the feeling that we had players in the side that could win us games, that could score goals, that would get us something from a set piece. If the forwards weren't performing, we'd have a centre-half score from a header, and vice versa. Wide players that could score goals as well. We had, you know, we had goals from all over the place. Yeah, it's hard to explain sometimes in football, the psychological side of things, I suppose, where we weren't going into games unprepared. We weren't going into games with a feeling that we were going to get beaten. And I hate to say just one of those things, because that's a shit answer, isn't it? But it was one.
But sometimes that's just the answer. Yeah, sometimes that is the answer.
Unfortunate that the results just don't go for you at the time, and you end up suffering because of it.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of touched on this already, but there's a couple of people have asked. One being Dave Willie on Red Passion. But did you have? But was there any other any offers or interest from elsewhere that you're aware of? Any approaches? But you told them then there was Oldham. There was the offer of a trial at Leeds. Any other approaches or interest that you can think of?
Only from Linfield. They wanted me on loan.
Linfield in Ireland.
That was when I was at Donny. No, apart from the two I've already mentioned there, no, there was nothing else that I got wind of after. And to be fair, these are only after I've left the club, and maybe even, well, you know, years after that you sort of find these things out. But you just think, you know, I would have liked to have known at the time. Is probably going back and answering one of the other questions. Have you got any regrets? Is if I'd have found that out as a player, you know, knocking the manager's door and saying, look, you know, what's going on, just even if you don't leave, just be honest, you know. And I'm sure, you know, Flinny, to be fair, and I understand it completely, will always put the club first. And if that's to the detriment of, you know, any piece of information or a player finding out A, B, and C, or we've got these games coming up and it might unsettle a player, you know, with the mind I've got now, I totally understand that, you know, why a manager would do that anyway. So, you know, managers can't be honest 100% of the time. I don't think you can try, you can get as close, you can get 99.9% of it, but there's always something that's, you know, got to be hidden from somewhere, because there's so many dynamics, isn't there, within a team and within a club.
Yeah, I've got another question here, Gaz, from at Wrexham Carl on Twitter, who says, I heard a rumour a while back you now live in a tranquil abode in the countryside with a lady from that village. Tell us more about the lovely people of Costa del Ros.
I know where it's from, for the start, yeah. Listen, mate, you live 2 minutes around the corner, so we are within throwing distance of each other. You know, we're always welcome round here for a brew. And I'd suggest that you come up with a better question next time, because that's really poor, mate, really poor. But I'll text you after and let you know anyway.
Yeah, or just go out and see him in the Costa del Ros, as it were.
The brother-in-law, by the way. The brother-in-law it is, for anyone that's listening, or Andy, just to let you know, yeah.
Right, okay. Right. We've still got some other questions here. I like this one, because did you support Wrexham as a kid? You said that Wrexham, you were kind of enamoured with the club once you came there.
It was my first shirt.
Was it? Which one are we talking then? Which shirt?
It was a bizarre situation. I honestly can't remember how it came about, right? But it was a long sleeved Adidas trefoil badge Adidas, the old one, about 88, something like 87, 88. It was the shirt. That's all you need. That's all you need.
Nice.
That. But it was the long sleeve version of it as well, with obviously the 3 stripes, trefoil Adidas badge, big Wrexham badge on this side, trefoil Adidas badge on the right. Yeah, how crazy is it? It was my first shirt.
I guess I have to follow on from that though. Like with yourself as a player, did you prefer short sleeve or long sleeve?
Good question.
Mm.
Carl was always like, I don't think he liked short sleeves, does he? He was always a long sleeve player, if I remember, but long sleeves get in the way a little bit. I think I was always a short sleeve, regardless of the weather or, you know, and gloves and that. Jesus, no. Always short sleeve, mate. And it's strange as well as a player, you sort of have a preference for collars. So I was always interested to see what the kit design was. Didn't like them too tight around the neck. You'd always end up sort of pulling this bit of the collar sort of apart, you know, if it was mine for the season or whatever, or it, you know what I mean? If it was an 8 or a 4, I'd rip a little bit here because we didn't have shirt after shirt after shirt. It was just the one.
See, I remember a mate of mine when we were in high school, and it'd be the 96, 97 season when we had the FA Cup run, and we had the white away shirt, and that was a round neck. And one of our mates in school, he ripped it there, and we're like, you can't rip your shirt, like whatever. Your mum and dad's paid 40 quid for it, but it was a bit stuffy. And I remember there was a double diamond away one, a white one, a couple of years later, and that was a nightmare. I cut that one myself, but yeah, that was horrendous. With the shirts.
What happens when you're constantly running around them is they rub. They can really sort of tear into your neck or whatever. You just got to be, I suppose, it's preferences and definitely. But the shirts were always huge at Wrexham. I mean, I wouldn't say I was the smallest build in the world, but never used to fill the shirts. They were always XLs and always hanging off me. But when you've got Garth in the team, Nigel Beaumont, then you need to obviously cater for that size of bloke as well.
That ties in nicely. There's a question here with Moyne Keep the Faith on Red Passion, who asked, will I ever fit into your shirt from the United game? So I don't know if they've got your shirt somehow or whatever.
Oh, interesting. I'd love to meet up if that was the case and see it. Yeah. I was probably, I mean, my match weight was probably 11 and a half, sort of 11 and a half stone, believe it or not. And then towards the latter end of your career, I mean, we were obviously having, sports science came into it then. We were BMI tests and what have you, we were well looked after. So yeah, my playing weight was always around sort of 12 stone. But the build I got, I suppose, is, I don't know, I'm probably more suited to rugby. I don't know what position. But thankfully, no, I think I got my mum's legs, which got me around the pitch enough as well. But I'd love to see if they got that shirt, get in touch on Twitter or something. It'd be great to meet up.
Yeah. And to go back to the question, which is Harry Potter on Red Passion, great name, with do you support Wrexham as a kid? And the second part of that is, if so, where did you used to sit or stand? So anytime you went to the race course, before obviously you were involved in the club, where did you used to, was there a favourite spot to go?
Unfortunately not. No, I didn't see any games at the racecourse. Much to my disappointment, I suppose, or with it being, my mum and dad didn't drive at the time, and I think you're spending so much time as a young player playing on a Saturday. If I ever went anywhere, I was fortunate enough to go and watch Everton. My brother was a big Everton fan, and I'd probably watch Everton maybe not once a month, maybe through. I remember when I was maybe 10, 11, 12. So they were probably, nice to get over there. I remember, I think Bobby Robson, it's a Bobby Robson quote about football isn't about money and the money men at the top or trophies or champions. It's about the fans, and it's about that as a boy walking up the steps for the first time, coming to the top of the steps and seeing the lights out on a pitch for the first time, and just without being able to do anything, just falling in love with it. And I'd say that happened probably at Goodison Park for me, where a game under lights, where I can feel hairs on the back of my neck standing on. I know I don't support it. I still got a soft spot for Everton, probably because of my brother, my eldest brother Brim. But it's that moment, isn't it? You've probably been there. Every football fan has been there, where they've walked into a stadium for the first time and it's under lights, and you can't do anything about it, can you?
No, it's like it'll be freezing cold. It'll be the middle of winter, whatever. It'll be pitch black outside, but you just get the beams of the obviously massive floodlights in Wrexham case. You get yourself a pie that, for all you know, could be made out of dog food, but still, it's fine. And it's just, you take it all in, and it's freezing and it's cold, and it might start raining, but it's all just, I don't know, it is. I think there's something special about just a night game. Even now, going, obviously, not being able to go to the race course for a year now or more, it's just, there's still something now I enjoy. Even if the weather's horrendous, I still look forward to that midweek night game. And it could be against, obviously, the level we're playing now, it's against teams that yeah, it's not great to be playing against. It could be an awful game of football where it's just hoofball or whatever, but still, it's a Wrexham game. It's at the racecourse. It's Tuesday. It's yeah, something special about it.
Yeah. I don't think anything will replace that. You know, in life, I don't, you know, once you've had that moment, I think you fall in love with it. You're stuck with football for life. Yeah.
Yeah, I particularly remember a Dave Brammer screamer on a Tuesday night. I want to say it's against Carlisle in about 1994, 1995. And I think it's Rooster scored 2 and we won 3-2. And I've never seen the goal back ever, but in my head, and I was up in the top of the Yale stand, in my head, Dave Brammer hit it from just inside just inside their half. And it was just one of those where rows and rows and rows into the cop end, and it would have carried on going. I might see it back now, and it might be just like scuffed from like 14 yards in off the post. But it's just that young kid seeing that. It's like, God, this is good. I want some more of this. A question here that's going over a passion from Dag, DAGG. Are you fit enough to play, and have you still got your boots?
Yeah, obviously, I'm touching 50, believe it or not, this year. It's my 50th birthday, October. The legend stuff has been a godsend for us, having being able to get out even on a pitch. And I think the last time we were together, the last time I was involved, I think we were over at Carewis. I don't know whether was that your first time involved, Carewis? Do you remember? I was going over there.
I went to the Druids one at the Rock, and you bossed the game in that one, I think.
Yeah. Oh no, I remember playing the Druids. Tell a lie. Yeah. There was a few I'd missed though because of Coach Ed on a Sunday, and the games generally being on a Sunday. I'd missed quite a lot over the last 12 months prior to COVID. So yeah, it'd be great to get back into it. I'd like to get a little bit off me and just get a bit fitter. Struggling with this COVID cough, post-COVID cough still, but I have to go upstairs now, and I'm breathing at the top of the stairs. So I dream about it. I'll be honest, is the answer to the question. I still sit there watching every game now and just think towards the last 10 minutes, Dean's going to shout here, we're looking for a sub, and all the subs have like fallen asleep or something. And there's Owen's in the crowd there. Let's get him out onto the pitch.
Yeah, we got some boots this size. Yeah, we just so happen to. Yeah,
me, mate. Yeah, boots. Yeah, it's still it feels like a dream looking back, and it's a dream still to go out there. And if we ever play on the race course, I don't know what I'd do. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's the aim at some point, to hopefully get one of these Legends games back at the race course. I don't. That's not to say it's going to happen, but that's the dream at some point.
Pull some strings, man. You must know R&R, don't you?
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can.
You can speak to their people, and we'll get it sorted. Yeah. We did actually play one about must be 4 years ago now. That one of the first ones we played, and I think there was probably 1,500, 2,000 there.
Yeah.
It was like a sort of celebrity team against us. Probably one of the first ones we played. But Chris Coleman played for us. Remember, he was around at the time. He played centre back. I'm sure Kit Simmons played as well.
Yeah.
Clinton Blackmore came up and played. So it was more like of a celebrity thing from our end as well, where it was crazy being out on the race course again. I'm talking probably 5 years ago now, maybe 6 years ago, but all the memories come flooding back, don't they, when you're getting changed and everything. So yeah, it'd be great if you could organise that again, mate, in my 50th year. That'd be brilliant.
Oh, no pressure now. Gonna do it for your 50th birthday. I can't say no on that. I'll do lunch with somebody. We'll do lunch and have a chat.
Right. Look forward to that.
A question from Weed, I think it is. Who was the craziest in the dressing room through your time at Wrexham, and why?
We've already spoken about him, don't we? Benno takes that title quite easily. There's quite a few down the years that were entertainers. I think the three boys from Huddersfield were probably, or that area, the North Yorkshire lads, or the Yorkshire boys as we call them, Spice Boys from Yorkshire, Nigel Beaumont, Andy Thack and Coops were three brilliant signings for the club. Really infectious people. Obviously, Garth stays local still. He lives in the area, and Coops is down a lot to visit and goes out and obviously enjoys the evening with Garth. And I'm still in contact with Andy Thackeray as well. He's on Twitter, and we follow each other on Twitter. And they were a really big influence, I think, on the early years. Kev Russell was a larger-than-life character. Mm-hmm. Always, entertaining, keeping people happy, and was the life and soul of many parties we've had down the year. Neil Roberts again. Dean Spink was a great lad to have round. The Trinidad boys, when they signed, Big Den, Carlos, what characters, and really lucky to have been, around them when they've come through. And, Darren Ferguson, big character again, Wardy, Peter Ward.
What a left foot. What a left foot.
Yeah, Mickey, what an infectious character Mickey was. Are we going to see these types of people coming through again? Only time will tell, but I think we've lived through a very lucky period, should we say, as Wrexham, with Wrexham as a common interest.
Yeah. Is there one Wrexham player you didn't get the chance to play with that you really wish you'd have got the chance to have even a game with, or a season with, or a couple of seasons with?
I tell you who guested for us in that game. Juan Ugarte came over, flew in and played straight away. We had a footballing connection. So different to Benno, different to Steve Watkin, different to Truns. Fox in the box, continental thinking, pockets of space, that type of player that I think I'd have probably struck a good partnership up with him, as a number 10 or whatever you want to term him, a centre forward or a false 9 because of his size. I think that type of I think he's probably one that you look at and think I'd like to have maybe had played with. I think Truns as well. I'd like to have played longer with Truns. And Andy, what a partnership they were up front. And obviously Lee left and under a bit of a cloud, I suppose, and went and ended up having a brilliant career for Swansea. Just wish that had been at Wrexham.
Yeah.
Me alongside him in League One or the Championship, I think would have been, my sort of vision at the time. But players we played against, back in the day that used to cause us. He used to go to. Jamie Curtin was always a name that springs to mind with me. Wherever we played,
who was it? I think Mark McGregor brought him up as well, just randomly threw out there. And it's because he was. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still playing to this day, because he was playing into his early 40s, I think, up to a couple of years ago. Professional football still.
Yeah, nightmare, absolute nightmare to play against. Bright as a button, fit, strong.
I'm sure he came through at Leeds originally, and then it was like Bristol Rovers where he spent most of his time.
Yeah, it's probably a strange one. Probably people listening will probably think Jamie Curtin, but it's not until you find these things out how bright people are as when you go onto a pitch and as a midfielder, you've got to glance, you've got to make sure that you're breaking passing lines into him, because he always used to cause problems. And you did Tony and Pedge or Big Briar, whoever behind you, he's causing us problems again, and it just sticks in my mind. He's one that immediately comes and sort of springs to mind, I suppose. Andy Hassenthaler was a difficult midfielder to play against. I'm sure he would have been, great to have in your own team as well. Peter Reid's brother was a good, solid sort of Sean Reid. Playing against. I remember playing against him many a time. Sort of, I think he was at Bury at the time, and he's a solid player. If you've got a deep line midfielder like that can sit, then it allows you to get forward and really experienced sort of players. And I haven't mentioned Premier League yet or Championship players. We could be here all night, couldn't we? Scholes is probably the ultimate one. I think Zidane pays him the ultimate compliment, doesn't he? When people ask Zidane what was it like being the best midfielder in the world, and he says, "Well, I don't know, ask Paul Scholes."
Yeah,
he's probably the one where you thought. If the ultimate would have been playing in the Testimonial, doing 10 minutes for Man United at the end and having Scholes in that team. That would have been the ultimate for me, yeah. But I can't, listen, mate, I can't complain, can I? It was, as I've mentioned all night, really, I still pinch myself now.
Yeah. A last question before we get into your Wrexham 11. This is the last question, unless more come up the spin-off. But what was? I guess it's a question you've probably been asked loads over the years, because you've had a few tap-ins, but you've had a fair few screamers when you did score. But what's the best or most memorable goal that you've scored?
Well, probably the one that few immediately spring to mind, but scoring in the cup final at home, the FAW Premier Cup as it was then, extra time. I think there was only a few minutes to go, and I think Chalky went down the left and a little dink to the far post. I come on as a sub, I think. I didn't start the game, but come on as a sub and had enough energy to get on the end of it and just poked it home. But yeah, there's the screamers, if you like, a free kick. Swansea, we were 3-1 up at home against Wet Night. And I'm not joking. If you look at it on YouTube, you think, what are you doing, even thinking of striking a ball from there? But I think it must have been 40 yards out. I'm not exaggerating. I wouldn't. But you can see the centre circle, and I'm probably only maybe 5 yards off the centre circle. Just put the ball down, and everyone's thinking you're going to clip it in the box. But I just struck through it as best as I possibly could. There was no wall. Roger Freestone was in goal. And it seemed to stay at the same height for ages as it was travelling and didn't sort of deviate. It just, and it, fortunately in the corner of the net as well where he couldn't reach. So, I enjoyed that one. And the last one, Colchester at home or something like that, 2 each. With down to 10 men, went into the last 5-10 minutes. And sort of struck across. When you get a golf strike that you feel is just right, that's come off your foot, and before anyone can do anything, it's sort of hitting the bar or the underside of the bar. And
that's what I'm thinking of. That's what I was thinking of.
It hammered down on the day as well, so all the water comes up off the net, and the cop go mad behind it. It was probably 20-25 yards out, but caught it, really well. So they're the sort of immediate ones, and the fans remember you for them, and brilliant. And not so much the tap-ins from a yard in the Premier Cup final.
They all count. Like you said, that one was the cup, against Cardiff in 98.
I went through a period, went through a period, I'm sure I scored 3 headers on the bounce, 3 weeks on the bounce. Certainly 2 at home, Burnley, I think, and Gillingham. Don't know how. Andy Thackeray, maybe Kizza, constantly getting balls in the box, and just arrived in the box, and 5'8" as well. Not really, shouldn't get in there and beat centre halves, but scored a couple of headers on the bounce as well. They stick in my mind for whatever reason.
It was the one that was Colchester. I think it was against. For some reason, I was thinking maybe Cardiff, just because I was thinking of the blue kits. I remember there was a goal of yours that opened up. I want to say it was called like Goals on Sunday, but that sounds like the Sky program. But it used to be on ITV, or the HTV Wales. About lunchtime on a Sunday, and it recapped the Wrexham game, the Cardiff game, the Swansea game from the day before. And it used to, the opening of that, the opening credits, there was you, it'd end with you rattling in one off the bar from about 30 yards. It must have been that one, because I think
it's Colchester at home. I think the free kicker, obviously at the club down the road as well, sticks in my mind.
Yeah, right. Now it's make or break time.
This is what I'm looking forward to more than anything.
Is it? Right. Good on you, mate. Right. I'll turn it over to you then. Gareth Owen, this is your Wrexham 11.
Yeah, I'm going to take charge and really stamp my authority on the setup and the way we're going to play. So I've got it just to the left of us here, so excuse if my eyes are going off. But so in goal, notable mentions, obviously. I've got notable mentions and I've got about 1,800 subs, but we're going to play the way we're going to set up in a goalie 4-2-2-2. All right, so like a box midfield and 2 forwards. But I've got plans for the 2 number 10s. So we'll call them 2 number 6s, the bottom of the box. So your 2 defensive midfielders and 2 attacking midfielders. But I've got little roles for them.
I love it. I love how technical you're getting with this. This is brilliant.
It's the job, isn't it? So,
yeah, it's great.
Andy Marriott in goal straight away. So Andy was, from the moment he signed, I think, got the better. It took us up to the next level, and such a really astute signing from Flinney. Numerous clean sheets, numerous horrendous goalkeeping shirts as well, I think.
Oh, God. The bright yellow and blue and black, little patches everywhere. Yeah, that was the 90s.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be the same if it was any different, would it?
No.
Notable mentions there, Mark Cartwright, Kev Dearden, and then Mark Morris, obviously, who was keeper when it sort of broke through. Mike Salmon was actually goalkeeper, I think, when it first started, but Mark, obviously, latterly after that. Then a back 4, I'd gone for Phil Hardy at left back. Joey as a centre back, because I think probably in his latter years, he played at centre half a few times. Remember him being behind, obviously behind me in centre midfield a lot. So Joey is a left-sided centre back, Tony Humes is a right-sided centre back, and then Carlos Edwards is a right back.
Okay.
Notable mentions there. So we'll start at left back first. Joey has played left back many times with Darren Brace, and also Alan Kennedy obviously came in and was, you can't sort of not mention Alan Kennedy, I don't think, with what he's done in the game. Tony and Joey, obviously selections at centre back, ball. So mentions for Nige, Beaumont, Pedge, Big Bry, Barry Hunter, Barry Jones. and Big Den as well.
Yeah.
Currently, Dennis is working with us with the FAW with bits as well. So notable mentions for them. Right back Carlos, notable mentions. I've got Maka, Barry Jones, Andy Thackeray as well, who was brilliant for us. But I'd have Carlos pushing on and give us the width on the right-hand side with the legs that he's got. So 2 central midfielders, then deeper lying central midfielders. And I've gone for an all left-footed midfield 4 here in a box. So 2 deep lying midfielders, Peter Ward, Darren Ferguson.
Nice.
Peter Ward and Darren, fantastic set pieces, obviously. And any set pieces we get in and around the box, we've got 2 brilliant left footers there who'd argue till their heart's content who would be taking them. Notable mentions in there, I suppose, defensive midfielders, Wayne maybe. Also Mike Lake. I'd say yours is more of an attacking midfielder. In Rush, obviously, you can't go without mentioning Rushy and what his influence had. Jimmy Case, Danny Williams, some fantastic midfielders we've been lucky to have over the years. So they would be my twin screen on with 2 defensive midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders then, and there's going to be eyebrows raised here, but I'll explain the reasons why in a second. So I'd have Mickey in his younger days as a right 10 and Carl Connolly as a left 10. Reason being that Carl can drift from that left 10 sort of role out wide and can go there for goal kicks and use his heading ability. And Mickey then can drift from the right 10 into sort of more of a central area behind the front 2. So there's a lot of thinking gone behind this.
I know, I love it. I'm in the element here watching this.
But yeah, Carl, obviously, the way we used to play under Flinney was like goalkeeper back 4, midfield 3, Carl out on his own, and then 2 up front. This is similar. Notable mentions there, obviously, as well for Neil Wainwright, Wally, as we used to call him, and Kizza, God rest his soul, as wide players, albeit on the other side, on the right. Final 2 selections then. Really tough again here. The whole thing's tough, but I've set my stall out. Steve Watkin and Benno up from obviously promotion year. A good mix between the 2 of them, I think. No one can argue with that. But just the way Benno obviously run the channels, got in areas for us, and Steve, the way he held the ball up, I think would be a good mix. And notable mentions up there: Neil Roberts, Andy Morrell, Truns, Chris Armstrong, Lee Jones, Kev Russell, Dean Spink. The list goes on and on and on. So yeah, goalkeeper 4-2-2-2. That's my team set. I think we'd go on and do all right. More importantly, I think we've got flair in there, mate. I think we've got goals in us, and I think we'd be solid at the back as well as a threat from set pieces.
Love it. Absolutely brilliant team, guys. Absolutely brilliant team. You didn't give yourself a mention, though.
Oh, no. No, always, one rule in life I've always had: let other people think what they feel of you, and never really been one for blowing my own trumpet. Why would you?
I like that. In our very first episode of this, Mark McGregor, straight away, the first name on the team sheet, Mark McGregor. But no, he did say, because he thought nobody else would pick him.
So he thinks he's better than Carlos, does he? Is that what we're saying?
See, to me, you open up like a whole can of worms with that, because Carlos at his best was as a wing back or that more attacking side. So I don't know, if you go on an out-and-out right back in a flat back 4, to me, I don't know, I'd probably be leaning towards Maka.
I'd probably concede from Carlos, and for me asking Carlos to play so high, our weakness would be down the left-hand side, where it is, you might have Maka on the bench and come in and tighten us up a little bit, and but in terms of comparisons with players, I've got that many players down here.
Yeah,
we could be here all night, mate. Should Truns make it in as a behind the front 2 all day long? Should Mickey be in there all day long?
Yeah, but then it's like, who do you leave out? If you bring in Lee Trundle, who drops out? And you can't. Yeah. If you got Benno and Watkin together, that's a partnership.
Yeah, tough exercise, mate. That, but sorry to anybody that feels that they should have been in the starting 11. I couldn't find a space for you, Andy, as well. I know you got a decent left foot, but I couldn't find anywhere for you in the team. So you'll be starting from the bench on Saturday, mate.
Disappointed. I'll dig out me old World Cups and clean them up just in case.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Guys, this has been absolutely brilliant, mate. Thank you so much for giving us so much time. It's getting longer and longer each week. I thought nobody would top Neil Wainwright, then Mark Cartwright went longer. And I've got a feeling this, by the time it's all put together, might even be a little bit longer than that. But it's been fun, mate. It's been fun. Really appreciate it.
Good. No, I appreciate you inviting me. And obviously from our perspective, you do a brilliant job for it. It's you give up your own time and everything, and from a 90s Legends point of view, it needs somebody like yourself to get involved in this. And obviously, thank you on behalf of the Legends for dedicating so much time to it. We all appreciate how long it takes to edit this kind of thing and sit here for hour after hour of listening to ex-players ramble on. So appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. No worries at all. It's like I'm in my element, happy just to sit back and chat to former Wrexham players. Doesn't get much better than that. So we've got well, this will be the 5th episode. The 4 other episodes are available on your Spotify, your iTunes, your TuneIn, your Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, just by searching the Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast. That's Mark McGregor, episode 1. John PD Legend, well, like John Legend and PD mixed together. John PD Morris, the chairman of the Wrexham Legends, episode 2. Then we got Neil Weir, episode 3. Mark Cartwright, episode 4. And this, episode 5, Gareth Owen. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, retweet, all that good stuff. Find us on YouTube with the same, all in association with Hill Street Social. And guys, hopefully we'll see you on the pitch soon.
Brilliant. Look forward to it, Andy. Thanks again.
Intentions to buy something precious in our hearts, as fans will testify. You'll be one of our family, you'll be one of our team, and we'll stand there next to you, together with our dreams. Above, so cherish it and bleed it, 'cause it's a club we love. All of our yesterdays and all of our pain, we bathed in sunshine, but we felt the rain. Feeling it too, undying, unconditional love from me and you. So we trust you'll navigate the busy roads ahead, but you felt it right to do, so you made your bed. To it, feel it, it belongs above, so cherish it and bleed it, 'cause it's a club we love. All of our yesterdays and all of our pain, we bathed in sunshine, but we felt the rain. All of the heartaches and all of the tears, is the nation.